when life quietly takes everything away. This story does not begin with hope. It begins with miscalculation. Chris Gardner did not grow up dreaming of Wall Street. He grew up learning how unstable life could be. Born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Chris experienced violence, poverty, and insecurity early. His stepfather was abusive. His household was unpredictable. Safety was never guaranteed. That environment shaped him. He learned how to stay alert, how to read rooms, how to survive tension. But survival skills do not equal opportunity. As an adult, Chris searched for structure, something solid, something reliable. He joined the U.S. Navy. Discipline appealed to him. Rules made sense. Effort produced results. After leaving the military, he believed he was ready for a normal life. That belief would cost him everything. Chris invested his savings into portable bone density scanners, medical devices he believed hospitals would need. They were legitimate machines, innovative, technically impressive, but they were expensive, and doctors did not see urgency. Sales were slow. Cash flow stalled. He convinced himself it was temporary. It wasn't. Money disappeared quietly. First the savings, then the rent buffer, then the margin for error. During this period, Chris met and married Sherry Dyson. They had a son. Responsibility increased while stability evaporated. Pressure changed him. Arguments became frequent. Tension became permanent. Eventually, the marriage collapsed. Sherry left. Chris stayed with his son, alone. At the same time, unpaid parking tickets accumulated. He was arrested briefly for unpaid fines. That arrest cost him time he couldn't afford. When he returned, the locks were changed. Eviction notices don't shout, they whisper. And by the time you hear them clearly, it's already too late. Chris Gardner became homeless. Not symbolically, literally. No apartment, no bed, no fallback. He still wore a suit, wrinkled, a little too big, holding on to dignity by habit. Every morning, he carried his son to daycare. Every night, he searched for shelter. Sometimes they slept in his car, sometimes on public transportation. Once, they slept in a public bathroom at a subway station. Chris held the door shut with his foot while his son slept on the floor. The child thought it was an adventure. Chris understood it was collapse. And this is where most stories stop, but this one doesn't. Because Chris Gardner made a decision that defied logic. He applied for an unpaid internship at a prestigious brokerage firm. Unpaid, 6 months, no guarantee, no safety net, and he was homeless. He did it anyway, because doing nothing guaranteed failure. At least this gave him a chance. Every morning, he studied before work. He learned faster than everyone else because he had to. He spoke efficiently because time mattered. He avoided wasted movement, no complaining, no explaining, no self-pity, just execution. While others went home, he went to shelters, hoping there was space. While others relaxed, he calculated survival. He did not outperform others because he was gifted. He did it because he could not afford mistakes. Fear sharpened him. Hunger focused him. Responsibility anchored him. This was not inspiration. This was endurance. And this is where part one ends, not with relief, but with pressure increasing. Surviving days that never end. The internship did not feel like opportunity. It felt like punishment. Every morning, Chris Gardner woke up earlier than everyone else, not to prepare, but to move. Because when you are homeless, staying still is dangerous. He washed in public restrooms, brushed his teeth in sinks meant for strangers, pressed his suit with his hands, hoping confidence could hide exhaustion. Then he walked into a building filled with people who had homes, people who complained about traffic, about stress, about long hours. Chris said nothing, because explaining would have cost energy he didn't have. The internship demanded perfection. Phone calls, cold leads, high-pressure conversations. One mistake meant elimination, and Chris made fewer mistakes than anyone. Not because he was relaxed, because fear made him precise. While others talked casually, Chris listened intensely. He learned how people reacted to tone, to pacing, to certainty. He didn't try to sound smart. He tried to sound trustworthy. At lunch, others went out to eat. Chris skipped meals, sometimes intentionally, sometimes because there was nothing left. He saved minutes. He saved money. He saved strength. After work, the race began. Shelters filled early. If you arrived late, you slept outside. So Chris ran. Not metaphorically, physically, with his son, holding a small hand while carrying everything they owned. Some nights they made it, some nights they didn't. On those nights, the car became home, the windows fogged with breath. the silence broken by city noise. Chris stayed awake longer than his son, watching, listening, protecting. Sleep was light, fear was constant, but he never showed it. Children absorb energy. Chris knew that. So he smiled, he joked, he turned suffering into routine. That was the hardest part, because routine makes pain feel permanent. There was one night he never forgot. They found shelter in a subway station bathroom. The floor was cold, the smell was sharp. Chris laid down paper towels. His son fell asleep quickly. Children trust easily. Chris held the door closed with his foot. If someone pushed in, he was ready. He did not cry. Crying wastes oxygen. Instead, he counted breaths. That night did something irreversible. It stripped illusion. From that point on, Chris understood something brutal. Nobody was coming. No rescue. No miracle. Only effort. The next day, he showed up early again. Same suit, same hunger, same pressure. But something had changed. He stopped hoping. Hope can be distracting. He focused on execution. During the internship, candidates were slowly eliminated, one by one. Chris stayed, not because life became easier, but because pain became familiar. His performance stood out. Managers noticed, not his background, his consistency. Still, uncertainty remained. At the end, only one would be chosen. One job, one paycheck. Everything else meant collapse. Chris did not tell his son about the stakes. Children do not need that weight. Adults do. And he carried it alone. As weeks passed, fatigue deepened. Memory slipped. Concentration wavered. One mistake nearly ended everything. A misfiled document. A moment of distraction. The supervisor noticed. Chris expected the end. Instead, he corrected it. Calmly. Precisely. That response mattered more than the error. Pressure reveals character, and character kept him alive. As the internship ended, silence followed. No calls, no update, just waiting. Waiting while still homeless. Waiting while still responsible. Waiting while still hungry. Then one afternoon, the phone rang. A simple message. He was hired. No celebration, no shouting. Chris hung up and walked. He walked into the street. And then something rare happened. His face broke. Tears came, not from joy, from release. The pressure that had been crushing him finally loosened. He did not become rich that day. He became stable, and stability is priceless. But the story does not end here, because surviving poverty is one thing. Escaping it permanently is another. From survival to ownership. Getting hired did not end the struggle. It changed its shape. Chris Gardner now had income, but no margin. Paychecks arrived slowly. Bills arrived immediately. He found a small apartment, bare walls, secondhand furniture, but it had a door that locked. That mattered. Stability allowed one thing Chris had not felt in years: breathing room. He showed up early every day, not to impress, to protect what he had earned. He worked harder than required, not because someone asked, because he remembered sleeping on concrete. That memory never faded. At the firm, he learned more than finance. He learned psychology, how fear drives decisions, how confidence influences money, how discipline compounds. He observed senior brokers carefully, not their success, their habits, what they read, how they spoke, how they handled pressure. Chris did not want a job. He wanted control. After years of grinding, he made a risky move. He left to start his own firm, Gardner Rich & Co., founded in Chicago, an African-American owned investment firm in an industry not built for outsiders. Clients did not line up. Trust had to be earned. Slowly, painfully. Chris leaned on what saved him before: consistency. He showed up prepared. He spoke honestly. He delivered exactly what he promised. Nothing more, nothing less. That reliability built reputation. Reputation attracted opportunity. Over time, the firm grew. Chris diversified. Investments expanded. His financial position changed permanently. But something else changed too. His perspective. He did not romanticize suffering. He rejected it. He spoke openly about homelessness, about fear, about failure. Not to inspire, to inform. Because pretending pain is beautiful creates confusion. Pain is instructive. Years later, his life became the basis for a book, then a film, The Pursuit of Happyness. Will Smith portrayed his story. The public saw perseverance. Chris saw memory. The movie simplified moments. Life did not. But the core remained accurate. He had held his son in a bathroom. He had run for shelter. He had chosen responsibility over comfort. Success did not erase that. It anchored him. Today, Chris Gardner is a multimillionaire investor, a speaker, an author. But he does not introduce himself that way. He introduces himself as a father, because everything he endured had one reason: to protect one child. This story is not about money. Money was the byproduct. This story is about tolerance for discomfort, about choosing effort when pride is useless, about refusing to quit when quitting feels reasonable. Most people fail because they stop early. Chris Gardner did not succeed because he was exceptional. He succeeded because he stayed. When staying hurt, when staying humiliated him, when staying meant sleeping on floors. This is not motivation. It is documentation. And it leaves one uncomfortable truth. You do not need perfect conditions. You need commitment that outlasts misery.